Now, you remember how at the start of the year I first introduced you to Will Shackel, the Brisbane school student intent on promoting nuclear energy as the crucial energy form, along with renewables and the like, if we're to get to net zero.
I've always been interested in nuclear energy, and I find it to be one of the only issues that all young people have a consensus on. It is the future. It is the future of energy. It's able to solve our climate change needs.
Now, since that first interview, Will has appeared on commercial free-to-air television, on breakfast television, on other Sky programs, and even on the ABC's Q&A. He is a force of nature. We caught up with him again last month, where we discussed Will's plans to go to the United Arab Emirates to join the COP28 climate talks and promote nuclear as a global energy source, but importantly stress how crucial it could be for Australia and how we should scrap our current ban on domestic nuclear energy. Well, yesterday, already on the ground in the Emirates, Will buttonholed, as I showed you earlier, the French President Emmanuel Macron, and he obligingly called out the inanity of Australia's nuclear ban.
Emmanuel Macron, I'm from Australia, and I was wondering, what do you think is the role of nuclear energy in global plans to decarbonise?
I hope that you will manage to lift the ban. I mean, nuclear energy is absolutely a necessity to succeed.
Yes.
For carbon neutrality in 2050.
Just brilliant stuff from Will. That exchange elevated the issue here in Australia, made big news back here, even front page news in some publications, fuelling the domestic energy debate. So with that in mind, I spoke with Will from Dubai and wondered if he planned to doorstop any other world leaders.
Bill Gates, I know, is here. Hillary Clinton was spotted yesterday. So I'm sure there's a chance to meet some people. But that said, I didn't only just talk to Emmanuel Macron. I also had a chance to talk to John Kerry, to Keir Starmer, and to many other world leaders. Also had a chance to talk to Rishi Sunak, but he didn't respond, unfortunately. So I've seen plenty of world leaders here. I think it's just at these sort of events, you get them walking past, so I even have to keep an eye out as I do this to see if any turn up. So it's a very interesting experience here, but I was thrilled that Emmanuel Macron, after my question in regards to what he saw the role of nuclear energy being in plans to decarbonise globally, that he took it upon himself to call on Australia to lift the ban on nuclear energy. So I was really, really happy that I got that response from him, and I was happy I chased him down with my phone for that one.
Yeah, it was a fantastic get. It was an important issue. As you know, it's made front page news in Australia. Was that your intention in going to Dubai? Was your intention to get a focus from other countries on the inanity of Australia's position?
Yeah, so my focus in terms of going to COP is obviously to advocate for nuclear energy. But in terms of how I'm basically approaching it, I just want to show people back at home in Australia that the rest of the world is going nuclear. 32 countries around the world have nuclear energy, and I've had the benefit of meeting advocates like myself from around the world, from all of those countries, meeting those world leaders from countries with nuclear energy, being able to speak to them. It's just, that has been one of my main focuses, is being able to highlight that at an event like this, nuclear energy is a big focus. So when Australia is refusing to even consider it, that we're basically on the sidelines as all of this is happening, as the rest of the world is going nuclear. As you might know as well, Chris, there was a major announcement that here at COP that they're going to, there's a pledge declaration, to triple global nuclear energy capacity by 2050. Of course, the setting of COP28 this year is in the UAE, which is home to the largest source of clean power in the region, the Baraka nuclear power plant. So there couldn't be a better time for nuclear energy to be brought up. And clearly at this COP, just in a few days, it's already been a major turning point, not only in the global nuclear energy conversation, but also the nuclear energy debate here in Australia.
This is the point, though, Will, isn't it? The whole world's focusing on this. If you want to get to net zero, you can't do it without nuclear. The big pledge here to triple nuclear energy globally by 2050. The world is pushing in this direction, and Australia, through Chris Bowen, look like a bunch of troglodytes sitting on the sidelines with a sort of a 1970s anti-nuke agenda.
I think if Australia wants to be serious about climate change, we need to start considering the role of nuclear energy. We're the only member of the G20 with a ban on nuclear energy. And nuclear energy is one of the cleanest and most reliable forms of power. In fact, I got to visit my first civil nuclear power reactor yesterday, that Baraka nuclear power plant, and it's the largest source of clean power in the region. And the fact, when I was standing there, having dinner there, walking around, taking pictures, to realise that something like that could not exist in Australia just was mind-boggling to me. I think it's the first priority for Australia if we want to be taken seriously on climate change is we need to be able to consider all options on the table. We're not on track to reach our emissions targets. And when you're not on track to reach your targets, you don't just double down, you look to new solutions and see where they can fit in. I think it's a great thing that Australia is pushing ahead with renewables, but we need to consider the potential role of nuclear energy in helping us get to net zero. So that's what I'm advocating for here. As you can see, I'm in a Nuclear for Climate t-shirt. Our basic slogan is net zero needs nuclear. So we're pushing really hard to make sure that not only nuclear energy is at the forefront of climate action globally, but also for Australia.
Now, Will, is Chris Bowen going to be confronted with this when he arrives in the UAE on Wednesday? Are some of these world leaders and chief negotiators going to tell him face to face that Australia's position is untenable?
Well, look, I'd be interested if Emmanuel Macron is here to see what he would say to the minister, but I imagine there could be some discussions. I think that it's really clear here at COP, it's been huge for nuclear energy, whether it's that announcement. There's also expected to be a announcement on the commercialisation of fusion technology, like the setting, like I said. So I think it's becoming it will be difficult for the government if they are asked questions about our nuclear energy policy, particularly the ban. It will be difficult for them to, I think, answer how they can justify it. I think what's really clear at COP is that people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, from all countries, from all sides of politics are getting behind nuclear energy. There's 32 countries currently with nuclear energy. There's 50 soon to join them. So I think I would really hope, I don't think it will happen, but I'm optimistic. I think that the tide is turning. I think the ban on nuclear energy is untenable. The majority of Australians see that. There's over now 5,000 people who've signed my petition calling on the Australian delegation at COP28 to support nuclear energy. So I hope that our decision makers reflect on that, reflect on what's going on here at COP, and consider the role of nuclear energy in Australia, and at very least just lift the ban.
Now, Will, I've had my say at the top of the program about the hypocrisy in the UAE at this COP conference. There's 100,000 people there, some of them the most wealthy people in the world, people flying in from all around the world, spending big, telling the rest of the world to tighten their carbon budgets. Do you get a whiff of hypocrisy there?
I personally think it's important that the Australian nuclear energy movement has a presence here at COP, but I can certainly understand some of the issues in terms of the hypocrisy of everyone being here. There's 70,000 people here in terms of the carbon emissions from that. I hope there's ways that the UAE is mitigating that. Perhaps it's through the nuclear power plant here, Chris. Perhaps that's how they're offsetting all of the emissions from all of the attendees. So I think it's an interesting case.